We go. All right. So I'm so excited. So, anyone that is joining with us this evening, I've invited my friend and actually one of my teachers, Kacie, to join us tonight to have a chat about our month theme is healing with nature. And I immediately thought of Kacie and asked her if she would join us for a chat to talk about how she uses the elements as well as nature in terms of healing. So if you are joining live or on the replay, feel free to ask questions and we'll respond as we can. I am seeing that we're live on my phone, so I think we are good to go. So I want to introduce Kacie. As I mentioned, she is a friend of mine and a teacher. I've taken a couple of courses with her, and I just think she's super magical to listen to, and I enjoy every live or every course that I've taken with her. And so what I was thinking is maybe Kacie, if you want to introduce yourself a little bit to the group. So Kacie actually is not on the East Coast. She is in Alberta, but I think that, everything that you have to share with us tonight, I think is going to be just magical. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. And no, I'm not on a coast at all, but my husband's from Newfoundland, so maybe I'll get a practice.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, thank you for having me. And I actually just adore anytime I have a chance to talk about the magic that is in nature and with the elements because it's changed my life. I always like to say that working with the elements taught me how to be human. I think it's just a really, really important thing for us to look to. We kind of, as humans, forget that we are part of nature. And when we forget and we separate ourselves from nature, we separate ourselves from everything that is truly us. And so, this reconnection with nature is a really big piece of the work that I know I'm here to bring to the world. And I also tend to really work with a lot of the cosmic galactic energies that can be very etheric and ephemeral. And I think working with nature and the elements helps us bring the cosmic and the soul magic and the divine down earth. So not only can we heal, but we can create things in tangible, practical, physical ways.
I love that. I love that. See, it's already magical.
It
So
really
it really is. And I think I just shared a meme not that long ago, just talking about like how, what we're made of, all the minerals and everything inside of our body is the same that's, found outside of our body. And it really is magical.
Yeah, the as
Yeah.
within, so without
Hmm.
mysteries
Yeah.
are really profound because I think when we're looking inward, we can sometimes get a little stuck trying to understand ourselves, which is such a big part of healing. And then I love taking healing isn't the end destination for me. It's what healing is preparing us to do is to be creators, right? Just
Mm.
like everything on this planet is all about creation and growth and evolution. But when you can look to nature and pull in that wisdom and get the archetypes from nature and then understand that there's actually all of that inside you as well. It just really
Mm.
helps to make it tangible, something that you can literally see or feel or touch, taste. It all of the elements are
Yeah.
within us, right?
Yeah.
Not only at that chemical level, like we're made of hydrogen and carbon,
Mhm.
but Jen and I are also talking about using the five elements that we use in my elemental creation system, which is earth, air, fire, water, and then the fifth element of spirit.
Yeah. Yep. And we did a couple of months ago, we had some fun with the elemental cards with the gifts
Oh,
and doing
nice.
some, yeah, and doing some mini readings. That was really fun. So
I love those.
I I'm really, really enjoying working with those cards. I find that they are um in terms of coaching, I find that they bring out without almost without me having to ask questions, right? It brings out, what we're going to discuss. And yeah, everyone that I've done so far, they've said that it really resonated and it was really helpful. And it just, yeah, there's something magical even just about those cards. So on that note, though, I want to ask, like, how did you come into that? How did you tell us a story about the cards, like how that all went. And I guess sort of your beginning and your journey on connecting with the elements, like how that all started.
Yeah, it goes way back to about 2000 and I want to say 2009, 2010. I was looking for some way to actually become a dance teacher. And I found a mentor who did a conscious dance facilitation training using elemental wisdom. Her
Mhm.
name is Lisa Michaels. She owned Natural Rhythms, and she was located in Georgia, actually. And I love the work so much. When she had other opportunities to work with the elements, including becoming a elemental creation coach and an elemental priestess, I did jump at the chance to work and train with her because she was just this living embodiment of wholeness. You
Mm.
could just feel that when you were in her presence, even digitally, until I had met her in person. It was all online. Um, she just felt so solid. She had this ancient wisdom that was actually birthed through her, this mystery school around the elements and the natural rhythms. And I worked with them and trained with her for, yeah, over a decade. And she recently retired. So a few years ago, she asked me if I would take on the mantle of bringing this elemental wisdom to the world and also fusing it alchemically with my own work as well. And it's
Mm.
been such a gift to be able to just take this body of work that has changed my life. Like I said, taught me how to human, taught me how to feel my feelings and work with the element of water, which I was super uncomfortable with. It taught me how to work my physical body and my mental and emotional bodies with my action and my own essence, all in harmony to create and manifest like so much. I've made I had a six-figure business before I took this on in
Mhm.
coaching and healing and sharing things with the world. But now getting to work with the elements means I get to teach people the foundations of creating and manifesting on earth. Like,
Mhm.
well, it is how to take the formless and bring it all the way into form. Because a lot of us come from places where we like remember just thinking and then something would happen. And that would be all you would need to do. And I think a
Right.
lot of us kind of don't innately understand or get how to make things happen on earth. We
Mhm.
get impatient, we get frustrated, we don't give our creations the resources they need to grow, or we don't give ourselves the resources we need to grow. So
Mhm.
this template, this elemental work, is basically how to create here on earth and make magical things actually real.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And that's something that really resonates with me is the creating that harmony within, and then, just everything unfolding in harmony outside of yourself as well. Yeah, I think that's really beautiful.
That's the order we have to do it in. Like,
Mhm.
it has to come through us first, and then we become this energetic match for what it is that we wanna create, but it
Mhm.
also takes time, which is I think the other really big teaching of the elements or of nature is that there is this organic timing. There is a divine timing. Things have to first be an idea, and then you have to, like, plant the seeds, and then you have to actually take action, and it needs to be rhythmic and consistent action to have anything grow, right?
Mhm.
From people to businesses to relationships to, like improving our health, creating more wealth. It all takes the harmonization of all of these different areas.
Yeah. Yeah. And then not just the law of attraction, but law of action. And that's
All
one
of
thing
them
I've
are
heard is that that's a piece that a lot of people forget is it's not just the attraction part, it's also the action part. Yeah.
I did a whole live on this today where I was
Did
speaking
you?
into that. Yes, it was called resonance. the missing manifestation piece, because this is the thing. Fire is the element of action, and I have it in spades. I love fire. It's my favorite. I love change. I love illumination. I love speed. But there are a lot of people that don't know how to work with action, and
Mm,
they'll sit in the feelings, and they'll try to, say the affirmations and meditate and be like, where are my millions? Why is the
mm.
abundance not coming to me? And you have to actually take those actions and create channels for money to flow through, for example, right? It's
Yeah.
just like creating anything. If you're wanting to grow food, you need to actually, get your hands dirty in the soil and plant the
Yeah.
seeds and then water them and let them grow. This is how we make anything on earth. And I think we skipped that chapter in elementary school. We studied nature, but we didn't go, and this is how humans work too.
I love that. I love that actually. Because, like you said, you have to plant it, you have to care for it, you have to water it, right? It's not just so with any thought or idea or dream or desire, it's the same thing. Love that. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's beautiful. Okay. So, so this is sort of like kind of a loaded question because there are the five elements that I want to talk about, but how do you I think I want to know, how do you use the elements? I guess, I don't know if you use them daily or weekly or how that works, or maybe even talking about like the connection with each element, like what each element represents is maybe where we should go first.
Sure. And, I wish I had grabbed my unified field template. I don't think I have it handy, but with the five, you can kind of
Hmm.
think of them as their own individual thing,
Hmm.
but they are so interrelated. They are an ecosystem, and we call that ecosystem the unified field. And basically, we have earth representing physical realm, water representing the emotional realm,
Hmm.
fire representing that action realm, the air realm is the mental realm, the energetic realm, and the unseen, basically. And then spirit is basically essence.
Hmm.
And they can be spoken of as though they are separate because humans are great at doing that and like distilling something and separating it out, but we're too good at it. And what I think we're relearning is the ancient wisdom of the holistic approach, because we've
Hmm.
gone so deep into like specializing and really understanding one thing. It's about understanding each element and its interrelationships with all of the others and how they work in harmony, just like
Hmm.
any ecosystem.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So how do you find yourself using the elements
Oh
in
gosh.
terms of healing?
In terms of healing, this is really important because I have in the past ignored an element or two. When I was younger, I ignored the emotional realm, right? I wasn't
Mm,
comfortable with the feeling realm, and I left a lot of things unfelt. And so that kind of piled up in my body because I was ignoring it.
mhm,
Over COVID, when I moved my business from in-person work to purely online, I got so excited by it in the mental realm and the digital and the etheric that I left the physical realm behind. I left my body behind and forgot to nurture and nourish it the way that it required. So, in my healing work, whether it's with myself or with my clients, it's bringing forward all of these realms and making sure that they are being cleared and then directed as needed. So I literally check in with my body, or have clients check in with their body, talk to the body. Hey, body, what do you need? What
mhm,
is the physical necessity? What needs to move? We work with the belief systems and the neural pathways of the mental realm, as well as working with the etheric allies, right? And not having to do it ourselves. We
mhm,
work with feeling the feelings, right? And letting them flow and creating space, and then being able to work with emotions on purpose, like intentionally,
mhm,
so we can
mhm.
have resonance, and just making sure that each part of us is attended to. Because full healing, I think, requires, not I think, it requires all of it, body, mind, heart, and soul. And all
Yeah,
of that needs to be illuminated with aligned action.
I love that. Just got to pop up here. There we go. Next step. No, I do. I love that. And then in one of your courses, the elemental course is you take us through like a guided meditation. So using the elements, for grounding with the earth and a clear current for emotions and so what I don't do that exactly like word for word, but there's even just before, starting this chat with you, I think of all of those elements and whatever word sort of comes to mind, like whether it's a firm foundation or a clear current for emotions or whatever it might be, whatever it is that comes to mind for each element, that's what I either say in my head or out loud. And I find it's the most grounded feeling than any other meditation.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it. You can use your own words. You can do it in any way, shape, or form. But what Jen is referring to, I'm guessing, is the opening that I typically do, which is calling in sacred space
Yes.
and just intentionally opening up to the stuff that's always around us, that always wants to connect with us, but we don't intentionally always notice it. And it's a moment of like bringing ourselves into presence
Mm-hmm.
and becoming aware of that connection, inviting a deeper connection in. And I like to think of it also as really rooting down into the earth and connecting with Gaia for that stability, but then also bringing our soul or source or spirit down through us. So we're running this beautiful channel of energy that aligns us with our true nature. And it helps us feel that security and
Mm-hmm.
stability.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, in whatever way I'm doing it, because it's different every time, like you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
I can call in the elements as wisdom keepers, guides, friends. And I also just usually call in the whole luminous team because we have a lot of helpers. You can bring in air if you want more intention and focus and communication. You can bring in fire for illumination and transformation. You can bring water in for the power of love and to be magnetic to say soulmate clients before you're going on a live and selling things. You can ask for whatever wisdom is required in the moment without even knowing what it is. You can be like, hey, air, bring me whatever I need right now. Like they're my manifesting and creating and healing besties. They're infinite wisdom, right? And so doing that process, which I do not only daily, but like multiple times a day before
Mm-hmm.
every meeting, before every live,
Mm-hmm.
before every client, and with my clients, I feel like I tap into my true self and my
Mm-hmm.
divine flow, and everything just is magical. It just happens. We are reconnected to the all that is.
Yep. Yep. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And it's so funny because talking about it, it doesn't even land the same way. It's like you have to experience it and it's very
Mm-hmm.
experiential, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a mental thing. You're not like, hi air. You feel their presence.
Yeah. Yep. And like you said, I'll do it before going live or with a client or just to start my day, like to
Mm.
start my day in that way is, yeah, it's just beautiful. It is. So let me see here. I think we covered those. I wrote down some questions just to keep me on track.
Yeah.
um, let me see. So a couple of weeks ago, we did a live in this group and we talked about the ways that we use nature in terms of healing, like what helps us ground. So one way is using that meditation. My version, it can change every single time I use it. The other things that I had mentioned was obviously, of course, going outside. A friend of mine is in another group. She created a challenge of earthing. So she wants us to do an earthing practice, for 5 to 30 minutes a day and take a picture of how we're doing it and share it just to sort of, encourage each other. I love to also take pictures outside of nature and And then in terms of inside, because I'm not, sometimes that I'm not actually outside. I don't have either time to go outside or I don't want to if it's raining or really cold or something. So I like to surround myself with a lot of things inside. Like I have tons of plants and I collect rocks and I bring the rocks inside. I use my essential oils to, I use them with my grounding meditations as well. Um, so those are a couple of things that we had talked about and that we had shared. So what are some things that you do, you know, um, to connect with nature and also use nature as healing?
So lots and lots and lots of different things. I
Mhm,
mean, I got rocks galore. I have
mhm.
dried flowers. I got like flowers around me. There's crystals in my water. Like I have nature totems, these little salamanders and altars everywhere.
Love.
Um, so all of these different practices. But I just want to say that there is actually, in some ways, well, how do I want to say this? I'll just say that there was one time I was feeling sad because I
Mhm.
live in Canada and sometimes it's way too cold to go outside and ground and earth. And it'll be like 6 months since my feet have touched the ground
Mhm.
barefoot. And I was driving and I was like, "Oh, I miss connecting with nature." And Gaia, the consciousness of this planet, like she just came to speak with me. We chat often, but she was like, "You're not separate from nature."
Mhm.
I'm like, "But I'm like, I'm in my car, I'm in my bubble, it feels separate." And she's like, "Car is made out of nature. Everything on this planet, regardless of whether we consider it natural or not, is made out of nature. Even the inorganic plastics that we might go over like, oh, plastic, made out of nature. Nothing can actually be made on this planet that isn't of nature, isn't of these raw components." So she's like, whether you are in a house or a car or you are outside, you are still in me. So
Mhm.
you can connect. And she was like, and the more you connect with yourself, the inner realm, the more you are connected with me. So she's like, stop making these false distinctions in
Mhm.
your mind about outside and inside and nature, and understand that it's always available.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point.
She
Yeah.
has lots of those of those things. The funny thing is it's always a remembrance
Mhm.
when Gaia will speak to me, when nature speaks to me. It's not like, "Oh, this is new information." It's like, "Oh, yeah, I knew that."
Mhm.
Which is what I love about nature's wisdom too. Like each one of these oracle cards, for the most part, I'm sure there's 90 of them. You weren't like, "Oh, this is new. Let me learn what this is." They represent things that we already know and often take for granted,
Mhm.
that we get to investigate more deeply. And that's what I love about it. It's simple wisdom. It's the breath. It's the like gratitude. It's water itself as life. It's these concepts that I think we just sort of put aside because they're too easy and too simple. And
Mhm.
it's truly those simple things that actually create mastery.
Yeah. So the wisdom of the earth is really reminders of things we already know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we've forgotten. And I think this is really a time of bringing forward that ancient wisdom. And of course, there are many communities that have not forgotten, our indigenous communities all over the world. And they're like, yeah, we've been saying this the whole time, but we're finally getting, I think, with the program, and more people are looking to nature
Hmm.
and being like, maybe we could learn from this
Hmm.
system because it's so much more complex. And we've been very reductionist for a long time, like we said, where we look at one thing and forget about looking at the whole and how it's
Yeah.
interrelated.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's a shift happening and people really looking, like you said, towards the whole the whole system, the whole body, and things that were, maybe considered, woo woo or whatever, like actually starting to get some, what's the word I'm looking for? Just, starting to be looked at and wanting to be understood. But again, I think that was key for me is thinking that the wisdom has always been there, and we just need to remember, and we
Mhm.
can be given reminders of it, and it's never gone away. We just, like you were saying, we can sort of compartmentalize things, like we looked at the modern medicine and we learned how to become surgeons and doctors and all that, and that was great. Right, and that's where our focus was, and now I think it's going to be a blend of the two.
Yeah, we went through a really big time of separating everything out and separating
Mhm,
ourselves from ourselves and from source
mhm,
and from nature. And that really threw us into a really interesting experiment. We learned a lot, but it also put us very much into that survival frequency where it's us versus them. And there was a lot of scarcity and lack and not enoughness and fear. And I think we're going through this return to wholeness where we can actually tap into the frequency of abundance that Gaia
mhm,
and the elements always teach about is that when things are coherent and connected and working together, there is infinite abundance because it's this circular, cyclical recycling system where there's always enough for all of us. But again, we forgot about that and we started thinking in these linear terms. And nature teaches us about seasons and cycles. Like there's creation, but then things have to die and then be dissolved, and it's broken down into their constituent parts. And then that can be used for something new. And so, even just looking at, our economic systems are unsustainable right now. And we can look to nature to go, what would work? Right? What would actually work better is to have these closed ecosystems where we use products and then we actually break them all the way down into their consistent parts, their
mhm,
chemicals to be like recreated. One of the messages Gaia always tells me is that this system was designed for infinite abundance in perfection, but everything has to be working together in this coherent, organic way where we understand the connections between the pieces. And it's not every man for himself, it's
mhm,
what is for the greater good, like that communal energy, that understanding of the ecosystem, and then moving back into that unified field of consciousness where we're like, how does this all work together?
mhm.
There's enough for everybody. There's enough for more billions more people on the planet if we just work the systems properly.
Yeah. And I really feel that again, it goes back to again creating that harmony or that clean and clear ecosystem within. And then, what, and it's that ripple effect, right? It's that saying, as simple as, putting a smile on your face and creating a smile on someone else's face. Like I feel like once we all start to really settle into that harmony and into that beautiful ecosystem within, I just feel like it's just going to spread.
Yeah. I truly believe that the answers to all the problems that we have from, the ecosystem to social, economic problems, all of that, they're all solvable by people that already exist on this planet.
Mhm,
And what we need to do is basically just have everyone return back to that state of wholeness where they're connected to their spirit, they're connected to everything, they're connected to their intuition, they're not separate, and they feel safe enough that their nervous system is relaxed enough that they can get the downloads, get the intuition, like connect with the right people, and then like we already have everything we need. Like it already exists. It's not like we have to wait for it to happen. So this process truly is the secret sauce to creating an entirely new experience here on the planet.
yeah, that's amazing. Really. I
Yeah.
I hope that we're around to see it, really.
I have absolutely no doubts in my mind of that because I know the people that are doing this work, and there
Mhm,
are millions of us right now. I think we've already tipped the scales. I don't think I've been told by Gaia, by source, by spirit, by all of these elements that we're already doing it. So it's just a question of, how much connection and fun can we have along the way, because there's enough people that are already reconnected, right?
mhm,
And we're just gonna accelerate the progress over the while. right, over the next little while. But the wild thing is that people aren't used to, because we're so divorced from nature and we're not comfortable with the process of death and all of that, is the old things that need to be dissolved and collapse in order to create the new systems. That's the uncomfortable part that we're going through, right? These birthing pains, but
Yeah.
I think we'll get there
Yeah.
sooner than we think.
Yeah. So, um, let's see. Is there anything that you wanted to share? Like when I reached out to you, is there anything that you were like, oh, I really want to share this?
Yeah, I think what's coming through very strongly is this energy of stop trying to do it all yourself when it comes to healing. And I think the people that are in this group are already looking to nature, to other people, but like really letting go of that need to control it.
Mm,
That is a piece that I think people need to hear about, and just that surrendering to the natural process and the divine and organic timing, and calling in the wisdom that already exists instead of trying to micromanage healing ourselves, for example, and rather creating the right sets of circumstances, both like internally and externally, so that our natural healing processes have space and the time to work. It's really important.
yeah. And surrendering it's one of those things that can be really hard. I had this thought the other day and I wrote it down that I feel like, and it might have been from something I listened to from you, it probably was, but that surrendering is really is really following your intuition. So what I also got from what you just said too is that surrendering is also creating that ecosystem.
Part of it. The other part that I'd like to bring in is that the the process of surrender is not
Mm,
like the waving the white flag and
mhm,
giving up that we can think of from our like military kind of things.
right.
Surrender in this case is more like allowing. So you're no longer fighting against. So it's related to that military white flag kind of surrender. But when we are fighting against reality or what is, we're actually placing our body into fight or flight, right? We're putting
Exactly.
resistance into that. And sometimes that's necessary for our survival, but for full just healing, but like coming back into wholeness, our body can't sustain that fight or flight energy. So actually surrendering the need to control and
Mhm.
allowing ourselves to be held by spirit, by the divine, allowing what is naturally happening to unfold, um, and understanding that you're not in charge. You get to be a co-creator with what is,
Yeah.
right? That's, I think, the part that people are missing. But it's basically like going with the flow of energy as opposed to fighting against it, working with it. And then you actually get to tap into the power of that flow,
Right.
right? There are times when we need to fight, of course, right? When it's an actual literal life or death, there's a tiger coming at you, or we need surgery or something like that. You can see that fighting against, the natural process or whatever. But when we're out of that emergency situation, the resistance needs to drop so we can come into that place where our nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, is activated, and we can be in that rest and digest. And that's when our natural, immune system functions and digestive functions and all of that, and our intuition is all accessible. When we're in fight or flight, it's emergency. Everything but survival is shut down, and there's no healing available in that place.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. So surrendering isn't, it still involves action. Like it's not really just
Absolutely.
letting go of just, universe, do whatever. That's not surrendering at all. It's like it's not giving up, right? It's not waving the white flag. I think that's, yeah.
I think maybe there has to be that but then there's something else on the other side of that.
Yeah.
I think surrender actually does require a moment of just going like, I am putting my fight away. I am just going to be and allow, but then you don't get stuck there. That's what people think. It's
Mhm.
like then you stay there. It's from that place of surrender you can start to move
Yeah.
from this new coherence inside of you where you're actually being carried by the flow.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
you're tapping into what Taoists would call like wu wei, right? Effortless action, as
Hmm.
opposed to that fight against energy.
Yep. I love that. Awesome. I think that that's all. Let me see. Is there anything else? Actually, let me check to see on here. Okay. See if we do have any questions. I don't see any questions as of now, but we can always check in. I can always check back after. So what would be, or what is the best way for people to get in touch with you if they have any questions for you specifically?
I mean, social media is definitely a great place to connect. So I would say you can find me, come friend me on Facebook here. You can come and play in my group where we talk a little bit more about elemental wisdom. It's called Luminous Evolution. So you're welcome to come and play with that. It's a space where I do offer things like card readings, also intuitive energy reports for people who are energetically sensitive to know what's going on for each month, and lots more actually. So I would say come and play in the Luminous Evolution group if you're wanting to connect, and then we can be able to speak on Facebook directly.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And I'll
Mhm.
just ask one more time, was there anything else that you wanted to add or that, we might have missed or?
I think I should pull an elemental card,
Ooh,
actually, since I've got the
okay.
deck right here. And like, as I slid the deck over, one flew out, and it was actually a unified field.
Hmm.
So I will quote myself, it's not one thing, it's everything.
Hmm.
It's how it all works together. And no one wants to hear that because they're like, oh, but I want that one quick tip, that one hack that's going to change everything, my business, my relationship, my weight, whatever it happens to be. When we can't actually reduce our lives and our creations and our healing to just one thing. It never is, unless that one thing is the unified field of everything. So if you learn to work with those five elements, that'll be enough, right? So the body, the mind, the heart, the soul, and then weaving the action and illumination through it all.
Love it. Well, thank you so much. I will be in touch if anybody reaches out to me for any questions for you, then I will reach out to you. Otherwise, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. And like I said, every time I hear you speak, there's always magic involved and and I always enjoy it. And I always, I don't know, there's always something that resonates. So thank you.
Mm. My pleasure. It's always an intention of mine just to be a clear channel for the elements and the wisdom of spirit to flow through. So it's not just me speaking; it is the whole team, the whole unified field, and the intention again is to support people in their luminous evolution and creating the wholeness that I think we're all seeking if we don't have it already. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
if anybody wants to tune in more with the elements, yeah, come play in Luminous Evolution and we'll share more with you. Or I know you're actually offering card readings and things like that with the
I
elements
am,
yourself.
yes. Yeah. So they are a card reading. I I tried doing them at 30 minutes. This is my dog. Sorry, she's very loud. She says hello
Oh,
sometimes.
you're so cute.
So I tried actually offering them in the beginning at 30 minutes, but I found there's so much there's so much wisdom, there's so much information to share that they're actually 1 hour sessions, and they're $55 for 1 hour. And absolutely anyone can reach out to myself if you'd like to have an individual session on the cards and hear what the elements have, the wisdom that the elements have for you. You're so loud.
Sounds like a dragon.
I know. Well, she's a Boston, so she's got this little stub nose that, you know, makes it hard to breathe. So she snores at night, and yeah. But she's all good. She's happy. She's never known any way different, you know, in terms of breathing. So it's totally natural for her, but she is loud. All right, so we will sign off, and I want to thank you again, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a beautiful night.
Yes, you too. Let's see here.